The moment her car skidded on the wet gravel road and crashed into the ditch, Isla Carver realized her perfect life had been nothing but a fragile illusion. The storm outside mirrored the chaos inside her chest. Her engagement had just been called off in front of hundreds of people. Her so-called friends had filmed her humiliation, and now, stranded in the middle of nowhere, the Heiress who had everything suddenly had nothing at all. Her designer heels were ruined, her phone had no signal, and the expensive coat clung to her soaked body like a reminder that money couldn't buy warmth, or dignity, or love. When the headlights of an old pickup truck pierced through the rain, she didn't know it yet, but her life was about to collide with someone whose world was the complete opposite of hers. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and love that finds you when you least expect it, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps us keep telling stories that touch hearts and inspire hope. The truck came to a stop, and a man stepped out, broad-shouldered in a flannel shirt, rain dripping off his hair. His name was Mason Wyatt, a small-town mechanic and single father to a 7-year-old girl named Ellie. He was everything Isla's world had taught her to avoid, unpolished, humble, and far too kind for his own good. But when he wordlessly offered her his coat and guided her to his truck, his steady voice cut through the storm like a lifeline. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said simply, and somehow that one sentence broke through the walls she'd built around her heart. Mason drove her to his farmhouse just outside the town of Willow Creek, a place where life was slower, simpler, and real. The house was small but warm, the smell of rain mixing with wood smoke and the faint aroma of soup simmering on the stove. Isla, still trembling, sat by the fire as Mason handed her a towel and a mug of tea. She wanted to tell him who she was, that she was the daughter of the Carver Empire, that her name filled magazines and tabloids. But for the first time in her life, she wanted to be no one, just a woman sitting in the glow of kindness she didn't deserve. Mason didn't pry. He never asked about the diamond ring she'd thrown into the rain or the tears she kept wiping away. He simply gave her space, as if he knew that sometimes silence was the greatest form of understanding. Ellie peeked shyly from the hallway, her big brown eyes full of curiosity. "Daddy, is she okay?" she whispered. Mason smiled gently. "She will be." That night, Isla lay on the couch, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of cedar and home. The rain softened against the windows, and for the first time in months, she slept without nightmares. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows, and Ellie was already up, making a mess in the kitchen with pancake batter. Isla couldn't help but laugh, a sound that felt foreign to her. Mason apologized, embarrassed by the chaos, but Isla found herself joining in, flipping pancakes and talking with Ellie as if she'd been part of their morning routine forever. There was something about that house, the warmth, the laughter, the sound of the wind through the trees, that made her forget the cold, glittering loneliness of her penthouse life. Still, the truth loomed like a shadow. Isla couldn't stay. She had a company scandal waiting, reporters digging into her broken engagement, and a father who would never forgive her for disappearing. Yet, something in Mason's quiet strength made her hesitate. Over the next few days, she learned more about him. The years he'd worked double shifts after his wife passed away. The nights he'd fallen asleep fixing cars just to pay for Ellie's school supplies, the way he still smiled despite the weight he carried. One afternoon, she found him in his workshop, hands black with grease, fixing an old Mustang. She stood at the doorway, mesmerized by how calm he looked amid the noise and dust. "You really love this, don't you?" she asked softly. Mason glanced up, smiling. "Engines don't lie. They break, but they can always be fixed, if you care enough." Those words hit her harder than she expected. Isla thought about her own life, how she'd spent years pretending everything was perfect, afraid to admit how broken she truly was. Days turned into a week. Isla helped Ellie with homework, learned to cook simple meals, and walked with Mason to the farmer's market. Every glance, every unspoken moment, deepened something she couldn't name. It wasn't the wild, showy romance of her past. It was something quieter, steadier. Mason never made her feel like she had to prove herself. With him, she wasn't the Carver Heiress. She was just Isla, the woman who laughed too loud and burned pancakes. But peace never lasts long when the past comes calling. One morning, Mason stepped outside to find a sleek black SUV parked at the gate. Isla's father, Charles Carver, had arrived. with security guards and anger that could cut glass.
Isla, he barked.
Get in the car. Now, the shock on Mason's face said everything. The truth had crashed into their fragile world. You're a Carver, he whispered. Isla's throat tightened. I was trying to tell you. I just wanted to be me for a while. But Mason's eyes had dimmed with hurt. You lied to me, Isla. Her father sneered at Mason. Thank you for taking care of my daughter. I'll see that you're compensated. Mason's jaw clenched. She's not something you can buy. Isla wanted to scream, to stay, but under her father's cold glare, she felt the old chains tighten again. She left with tears streaming down her face, watching Mason and Ellie fade in the rearview mirror like a dream she was never meant to have. Weeks passed. Isla returned to her world of boardrooms and charity galas, her every move dissected by the media. The engagement scandal was replaced by another headline, but she felt hollow. Every night she scrolled through photos of Willow Creek, of sunsets and small-town streets, her heart aching for something real. She tried to bury herself in work, but the memory of Mason's quiet eyes and Ellie's laughter haunted her. Then came the day everything changed. A massive storm hit Willow Creek, flooding the main road. News reports showed homes destroyed, families stranded, and Mason's workshop among the wreckage. Without hesitation, Isla packed her car and drove through the rain, ignoring the calls from her father's assistants. When she reached the town, her designer heels sank into the mud, her heart pounding as she searched through the chaos. She found him, standing in the rain, trying to salvage what he could from the debris. His hands were bruised, his shirt soaked, but when he saw her, mud on her face, tears mixing with the rain, he froze. "What are you doing here?" he asked quietly. Isla stepped closer. "You said engines can be fixed if you care enough. Well, so can people. I care, Mason. I care more than I ever thought I could." For a long moment, the only sound was the rain. Then Mason's expression softened, the hurt in his eyes slowly replaced by something deeper. "You shouldn't have come," he said softly. Isla shook her head. "I had to." Ellie ran out from behind the truck, throwing her arms around Isla's legs. "You came back," she squealed. Isla knelt, hugging her tight. "I promised I wouldn't forget you, didn't I?" The days later, Isla stayed to help rebuild the town. She rolled up her sleeves, cooked with the neighbors, and learned how to hammer wood with blistered hands. For the first time, she wasn't just giving money, she was giving herself. And Mason saw it. In every small act of kindness she offered, in every smile she shared with Ellie. The walls between their worlds began to crumble, replaced by something neither of them had dared to hope for. Months passed, and spring painted Willow Creek in shades of gold and green. Mason's workshop reopened, stronger than before, and Isla had quietly bought the empty field next door, not as an investment, but as a gift to the town. She'd turned it into a community garden in memory of her late mother, a place where everyone could grow something beautiful. Mason stood beside her on the opening day, his hand brushing against hers. "You didn't have to do all this," he said softly. Isla smiled. "Yes, I did. Because for the first time, I know what really matters." The sun dipped low and Ellie ran between them, her laughter echoing across the fields. Mason turned to Isla, his voice low. "You sure you're ready for small-town life?" Isla grinned, tears glistening in her eyes. "As long as it's with you too, I'm exactly where I belong." If this story touched your heart and reminded you that love isn't about wealth but about kindness, courage, and second chances, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps us bring more true to life stories that inspire hope and healing. Special request: tell us in the comments, do you believe fate brings people together for a reason? Because sometimes the wrong road, the broken heart, or the storm you never wanted leads you right where you're meant to be.